The wait is over. Dive into Audible's most anticipated collection, The Best of 2025, featuring top audiobooks, podcasts, and originals across all genres. Our editors have carefully curated this year's must-listens, from brilliant hidden gems to the buzziest new releases. Every title in this collection has earned its spot. This is your go-to for the absolute best in 2025 audio entertainment. Whether you love thrillers, romance, or nonfiction, your next favorite listen awaits. Discover why there's more to imagine when you listen at audible.com/bestoftheyear.
Well, Leigh Douglas.
Oh my goodness me, do we have an episode to do today?
I feel like we're rolling down the hill towards the end of season 3 and they are just knocking them out the park, quite frankly.
Truly.
I'm still not emotionally over the US Poet Laureate. I feel like I really enjoyed Stirred, but I'm still just in the aftermath of Laura Dern, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For real.
I honestly just, the fact that we both watched this remotely and neither of us text each other to reveal the return of a certain character actually makes me really proud of us.
So proud.
Yeah, I really feel that we've grown. And we both had a very mature response to this return of this certain character, which was to provide quite a lot of all caps content in the shared doc.
For those who pay for the shared doc on Patreon, there will be some full cap action.
Welcome back to Queer Gals Watch the West Wing with myself and the lovely Leigh Douglas. We are on season 3, episode 18 of The West Wing, Enemies, Foreign and Domestic. Intrigue.
Yes, we're speeding towards the end of season 3. I'm very excited. Should we just dive right into the episode recap?
Please, because the sooner we start, the sooner we get to our main man.
Yes, I am obsessed that we have yet another previously on where it is just simply everyone listing their job title.
But this one almost felt like a comedy skit because it was cut. It was cut really sharply.
It was kind of jaunty.
Yeah, like people like turning to camera and being like, communications director. So I don't know, do they feel like they just need to do that every few episodes just so that everyone kind of can catch up?
Maybe
Leigh at this point, like I had merely opened the shared doc at this point, and in all capital letters as I opened it was, do my eyes deceive me or do I see Fitzy in the DVD icon for this episode?
He was on the thumbnail and I was like,
be still, my beating heart. And I've just responded with an important revelation. So we begin this episode on Monday with Carol.
I love a top of the week. I love an opening on Carol. I loved opening on a slow zoom onto Carol. So we know that whatever she's reading on her computer is both surprising and dangerous.
Yes. She looks phenomenal in an outfit that I wouldn't have put on the rack for her styling wise up until now.
Yeah, it's kind of a softer, I feel like we often see her in kind of blacks and greys, whereas we had her in a soft pink twin
like
set.
a pale pink, like there was definitely like a silky vibe and a pearl necklace. But what I love is that she was dressed in this like really beautifully soft feminine way and yet had an intensely like don't fuck with me energy.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the way that she was kind of commanding the bullpen.
Yeah, the pull quote that I chose was, whoever's on the printer, get off. And I think when that happens, when were you to be at work and Carol were to shout that to the room?
It would be a big day in the office.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But there's some hot news that Carol brings to CJ. CJ is in her office with the boys, with Josh and Toby. And Carol passes her this memo, and it's about there's been a school has burnt down in Saudi Arabia, and there were some students still inside the school who were not allowed out and who were burnt alive in the school because the religious police, was that the terminology they used?
I believe that was the terminology, yes.
Would not allow them to leave the school because they were not dressed appropriately. Now, we know that CJ, as a woman in politics, has a very strong drive to like give voice to stories about women who are living under oppression, which we saw in the Women of Kumar. She's outraged.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. And just she's like, I don't like have any like information from anyone above me about how I should respond to this, but I suppose I'll just go and give a press briefing.
Yeah, which I'm sure has to happen quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's entirely dependent, obviously, in terms of domestic policy on what president you are press secretary for, how much kind of bullshit you may have to spin on the regular. But also, like, the president that you work for is not responsible for whatever is happening internationally.
For sure. For sure.
And so you're going to have to give a response to something kind of on the fly a lot, I would imagine.
When she leaves her office, I don't know if it's Toby or Josh, but one of them turns to the other and just goes, let's get a good spot.
A communal energy of like, she's gonna put on a show.
Yeah. And one thing I really rate from CJ that I noted at the top of this episode, she is very good at voicing her emotional response to things. She doesn't like internalize.
No.
She's like, I'm working out in the moment how I feel about this. I think at the moment I feel this way, and this is what I need you to do. And like, then can you just leave me alone? And actually, that feels very modern for 2002.
Especially in the workplace where I feel women's emotionality is weaponized against them and seen as unprofessional. It's lovely to see a high-powered woman in 2002 who is very much in touch with her emotions.
Yeah, and for me, I think at the moment, there's a lot of dialogue around our generation and Gen Z talking too much about their emotions. And it is really interesting to watch in 2002 a high-powered character in their workplace be like, I'm having quite a strong emotional reaction to this thing. I'm not sure what I need from you, but I'm just going to say that I feel a lot right now.
Yeah.
And me being like, how interesting it is that, 23 years on from that, even that level is being perceived as like sharing too much.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It is interesting. CJ goes and does her press briefing. She's asked some questions about a trip to Helsinki that is being planned to meet the new Russian president. But very quickly, the press corps are asking her questions about this event that's happened in Saudi Arabia. And I wrote out CJ's response. May I?
Please. Sorry, CJ, you're not outraged by this?
Outraged? I'm barely surprised. This is a country where women aren't allowed to drive a car. They're not allowed to be in the company of any man other than a close relative. They're required to adhere to a dress code that would make the Marinol nun look like a Malibu Barbie. They beheaded 121 people last year for robbery, rape, and drug trafficking. And they have no free press, no elected government, no political parties, and the royal family allows the religious police to travel in groups of 6, carrying nightsticks, and they freely and publicly beat women. But Brutus is an honourable man. 17 schoolgirls were forced to burn alive because they weren't wearing the proper clothing. Am I outraged? No, Steve. No, Chris. No, Mark. That is Saudi Arabia, our partners in peace. Bonnie, then Scott.
I love the Bonnie, then Scott on the end of that.
This is how you write female rage.
Yes, because the Bonnie, then Scott on the end shows that while she's shown emotion, she is still in command of the room.
Yeah. Which is, I have a job to do. And actually, you asking me the question, am I not outraged by this, isn't necessarily anything to do with what you're here to do as your job. I was obsessed with this. I was obsessed with the way that Aaron writes CJ. I was obsessed with Alison Janney's performance. I just think it's so phenomenal that in 2002, we were representing women's emotions in this way, written by a man.
Also, I struggle to think of another character that's written in a professional context in a television series where a woman's emotion hasn't led to a losing it, quote unquote, at work.
And like, we didn't have the moment where she like went into the bathroom and like cried in front of the mirror and like smoothed the bedspread down. Not to
deride Emma Thompson.
No, but I do think there's something really wonderful about seeing a character be like, of course I'm upset about this, but we're at work. So like, we kind of need to move on.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't space for that right now. And I have to toe the line, and the line is they're our partners in peace. So there we go. We move on.
Yeah.
That was the smash to credits. And wow, like what a place to start the episode. We continue into the episode with Charlie and a really fun storyline, which I kind of thought might go nowhere and also was not going to end up how it did. So Charlie's like, I've received a letter. I receive a lot of letters to the president. I open all of his mail. This one is from a guy who said he met the president and met Charlie's predecessor. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mr. Farley. Like, I wonder who like Mr. Farley is. Maybe this is a story about like Charlie meeting the person who he took over from and like some sort of like generational moment.
Yeah.
Leigh, I love you were like, I'm concerned. I feel like Mr. Farley was a bad man.
I've seen too many heroes fall in my lifetime. I was worried that we were headed in a Jim'll fix it direction.
Yeah, it's stunning. Okay. Lee's like immediately going to like abuse and pedophilia. Yeah.
Not that is in any way a laughing matter, but no.
But I feel like it makes sense. This show does do that sort of thing where it's like, oh, this seems like it might be quite a sweet storyline. It must simply be about the darkest possible thing.
I've experienced too much emotional whiplash from Aaron Sorkin not to be suspicious that he's headed in the darkest possible direction.
And then like he'll sideswipe us with like a Mrs. Morello storyline, and we'll be like, oh, actually maybe there is kindness, there is softness, there is love, and then suddenly he'll be like back in with like, you know, Dolores dying in a car crash.
The boy I played chess with died.
The boy I played chess with died. Oh, Mrs. Landingham's getting a new car.
He was beaten to death.
This is actually just an open letter now to Aaron Sorkin. We are fragile.
I know you didn't write this in the context of 2025, but that's where you're meeting us.
I need some softness. I need to be held in moments right now. So please be careful. So Sam's on with the Russians. Nikolai and George. FYI, Nikolai, who's kind of a bit of a big deal in this episode, is played by Ian McShane, who's a little bit of a legend.
Famously Russian name.
Yeah, he's British. He's a British actor. Now,
the Brits
I was like,
do love doing a Russian accent, don't you?
We do.
Love it.
We love to do an accent that maybe we shouldn't. And I was like, how am I going to remind Leigh who this guy is? Because he's like popped up in loads of different stuff. So people will know him from the John Wick franchise. He's become very popular from that. Leigh, you may know him as the voice of Captain Hook in Shrek 3.
Yes, I'm with you.
Lee's like excellent at jumping off point. Fabulous.
Proud of him. Proud of him. Yeah.
What an export.
Yeah.
It's a great meeting with the Russians. I really enjoy this meeting.
I could watch Sam interacting with Russians all day. There's something about Sam's, as we've discussed, possibly autism spectrum way of communicating, coupled with a kind of Russian directness.
Yes.
Is just a delicious combination.
It's stunning dialogue. I really, really loved the line, which was, President Bartlett has a rhythm to his speech pattern that's best uninterrupted.
So true, so true.
Yeah. I would also just very briefly, with regards to this scene, like to discuss the power of the phrase, we'll pass it on. When someone's like, could you do this thing? And another person goes, I'll pass that on.
I think it's powerful because it's cloaked in mystery. Because you're not actually saying who you'll pass it on to. You could be saying, I'm going to pass it on to the gods to have their way. We don't know. It just implies a kind of mysterious figure, a wizard in Oz, if you will.
We'll pass it on. I personally think it's deeply passive aggressive and I love it.
Yeah.
when someone's like, I really need this actioned, and I'm like, yeah, I'll pass that on. Which is really like, I can't do anything. I have no power to do this. A gal pal moment.
Donna and CJ are going for frozen yogurt.
Which is very cute.
It's very cute.
Because they are a very different kind of like hierarchies in this space. But it just shows that there's a historical connection between them. That they see beyond their job descriptions.
I suppose there's also the element of they were both actually on the campaign together, where those hierarchies would have been more fluid before they actually came into the West Wing.
Yeah.
So that makes sense for kind of the history of when they both came into the Bartlett orbit.
Yeah. This is kind of where the episode kicks off proper, which is CJ, her inbox is full of now negative emails responding to her press release about Saudi Arabia and a lot of death threats. CJ's response to this is, I'm going to say, very on point for her character, which is, I don't want a lot of production. You've literally just been sent a threat on your life.
Obviously, I'm not wishing this into existence, but this is another example for me in which you and CJ Cregg are the same woman, because I imagine that is exactly how you would also respond to receiving a death threat.
I didn't want to write that in the shared doc, but I also agree with you wholeheartedly. As you know, listeners will know from the last couple of episodes where I was kind of out of my head because I've been having these back spasms.
Oh yes, Fi, are we still in spasm? Update the queer nuts.
We're no longer in spasm.
Excellent.
We are in recovery. Yeah, so it's like the injury itself is in the process of healing. All of the muscles around the injury are kind of freaking out, but we are in a better place. But when I was not in a good place, there was a lot of like, why are you standing up, from my partner, and me being like, I'm just going to go and get this thing. And him being like, why won't you let me help you?
You are going to be insufferable as an elderly woman. That's all I have to say.
If I'm going to be anything like my grandparents.
The idea of Fiona Kingwell not being able to do something for herself.
Yeah. I mean, my grandfather is now nearly mid-90s. And when you go round, you'll be like, oh, where's Roger? And he'll just be out in the back garden, like chopping some wood with an axe. He's a tiny little man. And all of us are like, do you think that's a good idea? You chopping?
Wielding an axe?
And he's like, yeah, obviously, like, why? And the time that it takes, Leigh, for him to bend down and pick up the small piece of wood and then put it in the wood basket is like, it's like you've put yourself into slow-mo.
You're talking to the woman whose grandmother, who is also in her 90s, ascends and descends a spiral staircase to go to and from her bedroom.
Yes, and I've seen this staircase and she should not be going up or down it. But you can't tell them. And Leigh, when we're old, there'll be no telling us.
No, that's true. Ultimately, Donna's emotional intelligence saves the day once again. Because had Donna not happened to come into CJ's office for frozen yogurt, I think Donna was the one who was going to recognize that this needed to be passed on.
And she needed
to pass it on, Fi.
Yeah, she needs to pass it on, but she does it in a very like, this isn't because you need protecting, but because this kind of thing needs to be passed up. Like, this isn't for us to decide, this protocol. And she very like calmly calls Josh in. And then Josh reads the email and is like, yeah, no, I'm going to be making some calls. He says, yeah, it's a death threat, CJ. I take it seriously. I have some experience with this. And I feel like that's quite a good way as a friend of going, and that's the last we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
To a storyline which I think in 2002 was a really big deal, but for you and I, we were like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, so there's a chip recall. So
I was picturing wooden chips. I was like, what are we...
I did feel like you were quite lost in the shared doc. We're in 2002.
Yeah.
And a big tech company, their microchips may or may not be failing. And so Leo's like, this is crazy. Like, you know, it's 80 million chips. And Leigh and I being like, what?
I mean, yeah, as someone who was raised by someone who like was with Microsoft from 1995, I really should have cottoned on to what this story was about sooner. I feel my father is rolling in his grave.
Just like, for goodness sake, Leigh.
Did I teach you nothing?
Neither of us really invested in that Chip storyline because our guy arrived.
Our man. Now, if there was a man to tempt me back to heterosexuality, would it be Fitzwallace? Maybe it would be.
You love an older man. Like,
I do.
like hypothetically, you're interested in like an old man.
Yeah, my childhood crushes famously being Hastings from Poirot and Phil Spencer from the UK property programme Location, Location, Location.
Oh, just so weird. Like, why did we ever think you were straight? I mean, in a very Lee Douglas fashion, as Fitzwallace enters the Oval Office, Jed's response is to go, "Fitz, you old polecat, you old so-and-so."
I think Jed is a little bit taken with
Me
Fitzwallace.
too. Me too. Someone's got a crush.
Long gone are the days where Jed felt uncomfy around military people.
Yeah. Oh, truly, we've moved on. So the news is we're supposed to meet with the new Russian president in a few days in Helsinki, but news has just come through via Fitzy that the Russians are helping the Iranians building a heavy water reactor, which is what you would use for like developing weaponry. So suddenly the kind of premise of this summit has got a little bit awkward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a busy week of working out, should we or should we not go to Helsinki?
Mm-hmm.
Are we or are we not angry with the Russians? Big question. It's Tuesday, and Toby's just hanging around the front door.
Toby is yet again flirting with a woman in uniform. He can't be stopped.
He's like pretty insatiable at the moment.
He is a man on the prowl. He is a man who is in touch with both his hips and his savoir-faire.
I would like to be flirted with by Toby.
I would absolutely love to be flirted with by Toby. I think it would be an entirely non-threatening experience.
The reason why Toby is slightly confused is because he doesn't have any work to do.
Yeah.
And I love a Toby with nothing to do. Like, he literally doesn't, he has no idea what to do with himself.
Yeah. He's accidentally come into work too early.
Yeah. And he bumps into CJ. And CJ's like, there's this particular Russian journalist, and she has been banned by the Russians from traveling with them to Helsinki. But we're wondering if like we can do sort of like American Free Press thing and invite her as part of our like delegated press tickets.
Yes. And then this is where I kind of put together when we're talking about new Russian president, are we in 2002 kind of talking about a stand-in for Vladimir Putin, who everyone kind of thought was a moderate, despite the fact that he's ex-KGB when he first came in.
It was really as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my God, yeah. Because I think it was 1999.
I think 1999.
Yeah, when Putin first got voted in, it was very much on like a bill of propaganda of like, I'm like a man of the people. Like I'm the new guard of this. Like, you know, we've weeded out the untrustworthy, and now like this is the Russia that's going to bring peace to Europe. ...
He was elected in 2000, so it was very new news.
So I think this is a very interesting. I mean, we were too young to kind of be aware of this at the age we were in the early 2000s, but it would have been interesting to know like that Russian-American relationship and like a new president coming in and being like, let's rewrite this.
Yeah.
Cold War, Schmold War.
Yeah.
Why can't we be buddies? To a bombastic response to this idea from Toby Ziegler.
Time to teach these stolly-drinking Tchaikovskys about free press, American style. You don't ban those who supported your opponent. You make them wallow in their loserdom by covering your victory. You sit them in the front row. You give them a hat. I will save Ludmilla Koss, for I am Toby, and in doing so... Why am I going on like this?
I love him.
He just has rhetoric in his heart and soul.
I enjoy someone who's very verbose and who has a lot of like performance ability. Like he writes content to be performed, but you don't often see him involved in that performance. So when it comes out, you're like, oh my gosh, wow,
Yeah.
gravitas. But we can't linger too long because Ron is in CJ's office.
Hey, Ron. Always a pleasure, never a chore, even though we only see you in the most stressful of moments. But
Indeed.
I think he might be my favorite bit character.
I think that's such a solid plug.
I think I love his vibe.
Me too.
I imagine if I was in the midst of a kind of national security situation, he would be a face that I would be happy to see.
Yes. And also the name Ron Butterfield
It's so good.
is like entirely correct. And the casting of this man as Ron Butterfield.
Because we could have gone in a very kind of macho direction, but we haven't. And that feels important.
Yeah. You noted that CJ's wearing a great suit.
It's like subtly checkered, but in a kind of monochrome way.
Now, I think that this is a great work look.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's one of those things in your wardrobe that if you're feeling a bit like you're having a shit week, and you know, when you're like, I'm gonna put on this outfit I've been kind of saving as like a treat to me because this week's been shit.
I know exactly what you mean. I, for instance, am wearing my pink slacks today, which I get compliments on every time I wear them. And it's like, yeah, guys, it's not so crazy to go with a color every now and then. Do you know what I mean?
You heard it here.
Every time I wear them, everyone goes, oh, your trousers are pink. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I bought them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I like pink, so sue me.
I'm a serious woman.
So, a moment for CJ's inbox.
We're paused over the inbox.
So Ron's like, have you checked your email? And she's like, no, I've just got into work.
Because we at this point live in a time where you couldn't check your email until you were physically in the office. What a time. You wouldn't have even been able to necessarily check it from home.
I long for those days.
I remember my boyfriend in middle school getting his first smartphone and saying, look, I can check my email on it. I can go on Facebook on it. And I said, I don't want to be able to do that. No. I like that all of these ridiculous middle school people I can only see when I'm physically here and that they are not a presence in my home.
No. So Leigh and I both long for these days. That's our hot take here is we have nostalgia for a work computer and that being where work lives. What a concept.
I will not be bringing the work laptop home. Thank you.
No, God, no. So Ron is looking through CJ's inbox. Now there is a message there and it says message from a friend. And it is hate mail. And the address, the kind of sign off at the end of the email address is .sa, which makes me think it's part of this Saudi Arabian hate mail.
Right.
Ron says some very harsh truths to CJ where he's like, look, you know, obviously there are threats that come from outside. But also there are a lot of people who know you already who might have, you know, contact with people who want to hurt you. Not in the sense of vendetta, but there's just a lot of people who know personal things about you and that makes you vulnerable.
Yeah. I think it's so intriguing to place the highest level woman in the administration that we've been able to see in a storyline where her physical safety is being threatened. I think that's so fascinating. And you see CJ grapple with what that means for her status and her sense of power if she's under physical threat in a way that a man probably wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because he says, have you recently had a breakup?
Yeah.
And we know from that awful, awful man that she had the fight with outside the Kennedy Center that CJ is capable of picking awful men.
Truly.
I'm very intrigued about what this means for CJ's personal life. But also, I do just think it's interesting that we could potentially be getting into a storyline of like incels before incels.
Yeah, I'm
here.
really interested to talk to you about this further. But we're going to go back to the Russians. You pulled this quote out of the scene, which is possibly one of my favorite quotes from this show so far.
Why must every US president bound out of an automobile dressed as at a yacht club, while in comparison, our leader looks like I don't even know what the word is?
Frumpy?
I don't know what frumpy is, but onomatopoeically sounds right.
It's hard not to like a guy who doesn't know frumpy but knows onomatopoeia.
Which is for me just the perfect distillation of why I enjoyed this whole exchange so much. Because I kind of also feel that way about US presidents bounding out of limos.
And actually, it comes up time and time again in our things that British and Irish politician could never get away with. It just often just moving. Also leisure wear. Relaxed wear. Getting in and out of vehicles, moving at a speed other than a walk, sometimes just walking. I mean, there's something about historical US presidents where there's like, a sort of like pep in the step.
Yeah.
That not a lot of other international
a swing
leaders,
in the hip.
And, let's also throw in that the Canadians can do it. The Australians, the French, New Zealanders. In terms of people I've seen on telly of late.
Yeah.
Tiny Charlie update. He's still digging into this letter because the thing that's significant is that there's a code, like a private code that brings post to the president that he would only give out to sort of like friends, family, or like close acquaintances. And Charlie's kind of, from a security perspective, like, why does this guy have your code? I put in the shared doc, my instinct is that there's a devastating human interest storyline here.
Ooh.
More on that later. Because Toby's chatting up a Russian journalist.
All I want is for Richard Schiff to smile at me and say, "Touché, madam." And I think I'll finally have some self-respect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I must say, when I first met her, I quite enjoyed this sort of sassy tabloid gal.
Yeah.
Yeah. She sort of came and like sat down. She's a bit sexy. She's got a great haircut. And Toby's like, do you know what? Like, we'll get you on the plane. We'll get you there. This is the sort of thing we do in America.
Don't you worry about it, sweetheart.
Believe me, if we were able to enforce US law around the world, I'd retire and go scuba diving.
You like diving?
I've never done it. I've never done anything. But I've seen pictures and it looks fun. I've seen pictures of people out there in the world and they look like they're glad they're there. Now, granted, when I'm looking at these pictures, somebody's usually trying to sell me something. But I tell you what, I'm 44 years old and I'm buying. I don't usually talk this much, but I'm having an odd day. You want to stay for a little while and look at pictures of scuba divers?
I'm obsessed. Toby is having a phenomenal few weeks. He's he's feeling good at the moment.
He's coming across like a man who's started taking like a new vitamin.
Yeah.
And he's like having a really strong placebo effect as to how it's changed his life.
Or has like taken back up smoking. Like it's one or the other.
Yeah. He's like had the like absolute like rush of nicotine on his way in. And now he's like, do you know what? I feel amazing. As someone whose partner has but the entire time I've known him been like trying to give up smoking and then starting smoking again. You've absolutely nailed it.
What I will say is we go back to the Oval where Jed Bartlett is continuing to be in love with Fitzwallace going, "Fitz, you old horse thief, you old muckety muck."
It's wild. Now, I feel I can't linger for too long, but I just want to show appreciation for calling someone a horse thief as like a compliment for like being a little bit like you've got a bit of air of like kind of sexy danger about you.
You're kind of a cool cowboy.
Yeah.
We also have another musical reference from Jed. He refers to himself as Jean Valjean.
Yeah. Which also is kind of crazy because then you realize because Les Mis opened in the
80s, I want to say.
That's hilarious that Les Mis has almost been running for 20 years when he made that joke.
Yeah. And he will be well familiar from his time at the London School of Economics. I'm sure him and Abby took in some musicals, some musicals.
They took in some shows while they were there. And I'm sure that Jed also went to the National Theatre and took in some interesting pieces and perhaps the Royal Court and saw some political work.
I'm sure, given his Irish roots, I'm sure he took in some Brian Friel at the National.
Yeah.
Because you can't, for those of you who are not in the know, the English National Theatre has produced more Brian Friel plays than female playwrights total.
Is it Brian Friel or is it David Hare?
I thought it was Brian Friel.
It's possible that it's both of them.
He's a very prolific playwright. He has a lot of plays.
Yeah, I mean, funny that men of a certain age in the UK who are playwrights have a huge back catalogue of critically acclaimed and produced work that gets put on regularly.
Yeah.
But enough
to
about
Wednesday.
That. So the news in from Fitzy is that it's not good. The nuclear reactor. And so Jed's like, I can't really go to Helsinki anymore. How do we pull out of Helsinki? Cue Wednesday. And literally Leo and Josh sat in Leo's office trying to come up with an excuse that Jed can give the president of Russia for not going to the summit.
Yeah.
And Josh's pitch is that there's something really good on television and Jed can't work a VCR machine and doesn't want to miss it.
I mean, I think he is joking, but it's like not helpful.
No. He is being humoured by John Spencer in that moment.
Yeah.
It's been a big week for Toby and Sam. We are kind of rolling back to Toby discussing whether or not this journalist should be allowed to come to Helsinki. I mean, they're still going, communications is still going all guns blazing as if Helsinki is on.
Yeah.
Which is stressful enough.
Yeah. And I do feel bad that Sam is yet again the last to know. And yet again, kind of the distraction technique is to just put Sam in a room.
And just be like, you go ahead, baby boy.
You're a good talker.
Yeah. Should we discuss Toby's quote about this journalist?
Yeah. You understand I'm talking about a pencil and a pad of paper from which no one has ever died. I think to just refer back to one of our previous study sessions, I think Michael Collins, for one, would beg to differ. I think many people have died over a pencil and a pad of paper.
Honestly, I hope he was being facetious.
Yeah.
Because I expected more from Mr. Ziegler. Good morning, Mr. President. We are back in the Oval with CJ and Jed.
And CJ is in cream and lavender. It's giving suffragette. It's giving women's rights. It's giving glass ceilings. It's
giving the mother in Mary Poppins.
Yeah, but like for 2002.
Yeah, and like heightened. Yeah. She's having a stonking episode, fashion-wise.
And it was too much to kind of note down, but it is an incredible back and forth between CJ and the president.
It's a beautiful scene.
It shows how far their relationship has come over the course of season 3 from where we started in the barn.
Yes. And from her being like, look, sir, like when you need me to go, I'll just bow out quietly.
Yeah. I also, Jed obviously refers to CJ as his family in this scene. But should we talk about the folder?
Yes. Another quick kind of feather in Ron's cap. When CJ's like, I really don't want, like, I don't think I need to have my own security detail. Like, why would I need that? Jed says, because Ron says it's necessary and round here we do whatever Ron says.
Yeah, correct.
To which point Ron turns up with a folder.
Yeah.
And for a while they don't show us what's in the folder. They just show CJ and then they
just show her reaction.
And the camera just holds on her face.
And we just see her kind of subtly do up the button of her blazer. And it really encapsulates the whole character for me. I think it was such a brilliant choice by Alison Janney, because it's like she's literally, as she like does up her suit jacket, it's like, okay, this is a huge thing for me to process. This is really scary, but I'm also a professional woman. So what I'm going to do is literally pull myself together.
So the folder contained photographs that had been sent by this hate mailer, and they are photos taken of CJ in like the last 24 hours. Which means that this person is both in America right now and knows where CJ is at all times.
And knows where she lives.
Yeah. And I can't remember if it's here or later in the episode, but they say that essentially the email is using like a proxy account to make it seem like the email is sent from Saudi Arabia, but actually it's sent from the US.
So it's someone smart. And this was kind of the point where I went like, this had better not be a one and done episode storyline. I was like, this can't just disappear. Like, I need this to be a multi-episode arc because there's too much potential for drama here.
And we've been burnt by that in the past where like a really, really great concept of a storyline has been dangled over us and then never mentioned again.
AKA Donna's job offer.
For sure. Like, what happened? AKA Cliff Callie.
Yeah, where has he gone?
So I think we're robbed if she's just like, oh, and now we've given you a security detail and we're just going to hear no more about it. It's so interesting and it's so relevant, especially when she talks about like, oh, I'm a woman in a man's job.
Yes,
is what she says in the scene.
Which is so interesting. I think maybe it's so interesting to know that that's how it would have been thought about in 2002, because I don't think we would say that now. I don't think we would say the press secretary is a man's job.
No.
There have been so many women press secretaries now.
Yeah.
And obviously we're famously living through one as we speak.
Indeed, we are. Then Jed sort of starts talking about FDR.
Yeah, I just love him kind of waxing lyrical about FDR and his investments in infrastructure and social welfare.
And this is where a penny drops for Charlie, because in the letter that he received for the president, it was talking about hearing a budgeting speech in Pittsburgh and being there. And that's where this person met Mr. Farley. And Charlie's like, well, there never was a budgeting speech in Pittsburgh during Jed's campaign. But Jed's talking about a budgeting speech that FDR made in Pittsburgh. And then I was like, oh gosh, like, are we talking, is this storyline going to be about someone who's like, perhaps has dementia and is like confused and thinks that Jed is FDR and is like living in a different time period?
On a journey to the past.
Beautiful. But we'll find out all in good time. Because we're going to touch in very briefly with the chips. Because Leo's like, we've got to do something about these chips. Like, this guy who runs this company is our buddy and he gave loads of money to your campaign. So like, we should bail him out. And then like Jed just loses his shit.
There's really no background for this story whatsoever. And then just suddenly Jed is shouting.
But this must have happened quite a lot, right? In the kind of like early days of the tech industry where like every year was an unprecedented year, you know, and like the idea of like government employees having work computers, like there must have been a year when like that was the first year that had happened.
And like the first year that people had email.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I do understand why it's really important, but I just don't really care.
Yeah.
Right now, because there's other more interesting things happening. For example, it's Thursday and Sam is still kind of stuck in this meeting with the Russians.
In this negotiation that at this point is ultimately meaningless.
Because we don't think we're going to Helsinki.
And it's not even the first time he's kind of been in that position.
And then at the end of this meeting, Nikolai's like, oh, by the way, like there's this thing that I've written that maybe you could give to the president because we want to add this to like the kind of joint speech. So like, is that okay? And Sam reads it and it says, both President Shigorin and myself agree that we must enter 21st century as partners and friends, not as adversaries. We must lead the way and stem the tide of nuclear proliferation, and we must start with ourselves. For why should two nations still possess power to destroy each other 10 times over? Surely once is enough. And at this point, I was like, oh no, I think they're trying to catch Jed out. And this is all a trick and a ruse.
It's a ruse.
To make him look bad. And meanwhile, everyone else, while Sam is like working really hard, is still trying to work out how to cancel this trip. And so Sam then goes into the Oval with this slip of paper from Nikolai and has to just like read it out loud in like a room with the most important people in government. Cue an absolutely damning read from Fitzy.
You're telling me that foreign policy of this magnitude is conducted through Sam and I'm still alive? But it's said with a kind of a twinkle and a wink. And it, you know, it feels like a lovable roast, like a loving...
This guy's the guy in charge? Yeah, it's very fun. It's very fun.
Also, the fact that he's on a first name basis with Sam, I think actually implies respect.
It is quite a respect. I think you have to know someone to know how to take the piss out of them.
Yeah.
and it be taken in good grace, you know?
Yeah.
But what we deduce from the speech in quotations written by Nikolai is that it wasn't written by Nikolai. It's actually, we think, written by President Chigorin himself.
Because there's use of metaphorical language, which
And idiom.
is just such a phenomenal use of Sam's kind of hyper focus on detail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we come to the conclusion that this must be a secret message from Chigorin being like, I'm kind of still being watched.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not free of the old guard, but like, let's sit down at the table together. And so Helsinki is back on.
And we know that it's back on because Jed does a classic swoop over the head, putting the jacket on, and we're ready to go.
And then we sign out that scene with, tell me again why I can't wear whatever the hell I want.
Well, that's not entirely true, sir. The earmuffs were optional.
I probably won't be wearing them.
But he would look so cute in earmuffs.
He really truly would. I love an earmuff, personally.
I know.
The conclusion of the chips is that Jed's like, we're not going to lend anyone any money, especially because he's our pal. But what we'll do is we'll like have a meeting with him. We meet with the tech guy and he's like, look, I know I'm a tech entrepreneur, but I'm just not going to take a salary for 2 years.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to lay anyone off. And I literally laughed out loud at this because I was like, that wouldn't happen now.
No. No.
The thought of it, like they'd be like, yeah, sure, I'm going to lay off everyone and then I'm going to give myself a bonus.
A principled tech bro?
What?
Such a thing exists?
What? But the end of this episode came out of nowhere, quite frankly.
It came like a runaway train.
Which is relevant because Mr. Tatum worked on the train lines.
He did. He worked on the railway.
So we meet Mr. Tatum and Mr. Tatum's son outside the Oval with Charlie. And let's say, what are we saying? Like Mr. Tatum's maybe in his 60s?
Maybe 70s.
Maybe 70s.
I will say something that the West Wing does again and again is they find an actor for like a one-day role.
Oh, yeah.
Like a bit part. And they find an actor with like the gravitas of like, I am King Lear for the RSC.
It's stage actor gravitas.
Yeah.
So Mr. Tatum, it turns out when he was a child, he went and saw FDR give this speech and wrote a letter to FDR and it never got mailed. And his building was being torn down and someone found it and mailed it for him, which is actually really lovely.
Yeah.
And because Jed is cute also, Jed's special like secret mailing code is the same as FDR's.
Yeah, very, very on brand.
And then Jed arrives and is like, Mr. Tatum, so great to meet you. And like shakes his hand and like shakes his son's hand and then takes them into the Oval Office. And Jed's like walking in and like going to his desk. And you have that lovely moment, which they do every now and then in the West Wing, which is they allow like a lay person into one of these spaces. And it's just Mr. Tatum and his son in the doorway to the Oval Office, like, oh my God, we're
in the Oval Office.
And Jed being like, come on in, we're going to order some snacks.
Yeah.
We're going to get some food. We're going to take a few photos now. And they have their photo taken with Jed. And then this is when I started crying. Mr. Tatum just pointed through the door to where Charlie was still outside by his desk and said,
yeah,
I'd like my photo taken with that young man.
Because you can see, like, for a man of this age in 2002, like, when Charlie, like, tells him what his job is, like, oh, I have the job now that man had then, it, like, means a huge amount to this man that, like, a young black man is doing that job.
I thought it was really lovely. And I think you're so right that, like, representation is a really big part of why this is a really lovely human interest story.
Yeah.
Because you have Mr. Tatum recalling a time as like a young black man meeting someone who worked for the president in Mr. Farley, and Mr. Farley being like, you have some really interesting things to say, like you should write to the president.
Yeah.
And that being a formative moment for him. And then to have that come full circle, be invited to the White House and to meet the person who orchestrated it, and that being a young black man.
Yeah. It's
just really nice. And it's not schmaltzy. It doesn't feel like forced or like emotional tick boxing. It just feels very honest And I think that's down to the writing. And I also think that's down to the performance from all of the actors in this.
Because it's not overdone. It's just, I'd like my photo taken with that young man.
Yeah. And so as I wiped my tears away from my eyes, I kind of refocused on CJ in perhaps like one of the hottest dresses she's ever worn.
Yeah, she's just in like a sleeveless red shift dress.
Just at work.
And you can just, her arms, you can tell that she like lifts. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah. And we meet a new character, Leigh.
Special Agent Simon Donovan. Which is the most special agent name I've ever heard, by the way.
Yeah.
And it is Mark Harmon.
It's Mark Harmon, famously Mandy Moore's dad in Chasing Liberty.
We know you all hated those episodes, but still.
Yeah, it was fun for us. But yeah, so CJ has been assigned close protection and is Special Agent Simon Donovan.
Which is the point where I was like, so is this all been an elaborate ruse to give CJ a hot Secret Service agent love interest?
Yes, I think so. Because he's like, I don't know, you're the boss. That's
What
so
an ending.
hot. And
Yeah.
like, I'm like, and I think that's the point where I was like, oh shit, like this is going to be part of the season finale. This threat
Yeah,
against
yeah,
CJ.
yeah.
They are carrying it on. She's thrilled. She's excited. She's psyched, as Mandy would say. R.I.P. To the quick fires, Leigh Douglas.
Best fashion for me, CJ's sleeveless red shift dress.
Just a
I'm so
surefire-
excited. I can't say it. Sleeveless red shift dress.
Sleeveless red shift dress. I mean, that's a good vocal warm-up right there. Any thespian listeners out there, you can take that one for free. It's just a surefire win-win-win across the board for CJ in this episode. She's taking all of the top spots for me.
Yeah.
What could a British or Irish politician never get away with?
Making jokes about his wife and her profession to a member of the public.
Yes, because Mr. Tatum's son is a doctor.
Yeah, and he's kind of ribbing doctors. He's like,
Yeah.
if your grandfather worked for the railway,
Yeah.
why did you not get an honest profession?
And then he's like, God, my wife's a doctor. God, aren't they hell to live with, etc., etc. I think it would be impossible for a British politician to just be nice and it be genuine.
Right.
Like, I think that's a really tough thing. And I do think that's sometimes just our delivery as a nation. We are kind of quite sarcastic and like acerbic. And I think sometimes it's quite difficult for us to be genuine.
Yeah.
Queerest moment that never intended to be queer.
Jed and Leo's spat in the oval over the chips.
Yeah.
It felt very kind of coupley.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just like to say that when Toby is like without purpose and is kind of kicking his heels, it was very much giving like you when you have a crush and like you're being just like a bit like kind of crazy because you're like all hopped up on excitement.
Yeah. I think that's probably fair.
Your best writerly moment.
You're telling me that foreign policy of this magnitude is conducted through Sam and I'm still alive?
Yes. And because it was delivered perfectly. Mine is, why must every US president bound out of an automobile dressed as at a yacht club? When in comparison, our leader looks like, I don't even know what that word is.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Man, I feel like a man. I feel like we've got some very strong options here.
Fitz, you old horse thief, you old muckety muck.
Fitz, you old polecat, you old so-and-so.
It's so good.
It's also very like Catherine Hepburn film.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
when Jed's at his best.
It's very Spencer Tracy.
Yeah. And I think we all know the answer to this, but what was the moment that made you proudest to be an American?
I'd like my photo taken with that young man.
Charlie, Chaz, Charles. Chuckles. We love you, Delay Hill.
Yeah.
Leigh Douglas, what are we going to learn about today?
I thought it'd be fun to learn about what we might come to expect from Special Agent Simon Donovan
Yes, please.
by learning about the Secret Service.
Yeah.
So, guards have always been posted outside the White House gates and the front doors. I think that makes sense. The White House grounds have always been patrolled by a day and night watchman. But it wasn't until 1842 that the first permanent security force was established, an auxiliary guard of a captain and 3 other men. But the proposal was met with opposition in Congress. Senator John J. Crittenden of Kentucky warned it might be metamorphosed into a political guard of the executive. It would not be entirely safe to organize such a corps. It was a little sort of stand guard, which might eventually become a formidable army. So his concern is that basically, if there's like a permanent task force guarding the president, that then the president could actually raise his own militia.
Oh, yeah.
For his or herself, at this point, himself, personally. President Franklin Pierce in 1853 was the first president to have a full-time bodyguard. And he introduced the 2-level security arrangement, which exists today for the president, of a guarded outer perimeter of the executive mansion in the White House itself, and then an inner perimeter, which is the bodyguard to protect the person of the president.
Right.
But at this point, the Secret Service still does not exist. But during the Civil War, there were heightened security fears in D.C. because, of course, Washington, D.C. was very close to the border with the Confederacy. Just over the Potomac River in Virginia were the Confederates. So they, in theory, could have easily slipped across the river to attack Abraham Lincoln in the White House.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. So the Metropolitan Police guarded the executive mansion, but Lincoln was stressed about it suddenly looking like an armed camp.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that was the first time that we have guards dressed in civilian clothes with concealed firearms.
Oh, okay.
So this is the first time that the guards are not visible to the public necessarily. There were also uniformed guards at the gates and at the doors of the executive mansion, but we have additional plainclothes security. In 1864, we get a permanent detail of the local DC police force created to protect the president. But it wasn't exactly an elite force in that they were, in theory, protecting Lincoln the night that he was assassinated.
Right.
Yeah. In 1865, when he was at the Ford's Theatre, he had a lone guard who was supposed to be protecting him. And that guard was at the pub next door in the saloon.
Stunning.
When John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln. I believe he was actually drinking in the same saloon that John Wilkes Booth had come from.
I actually think that's an amazing tidbit of history.
And actually, after the assassination, the guard, John Frederick Parker, was the one tasked with actually hunting down John Wilkes Booth, which, given that he'd kind of had a phenomenal failure, I don't truly understand. But he wrote a memoir in 1867 with the title History of the United States Secret Service.
Right. But I mean, wasn't he like a little bit, like if he'd just been in the pub?
Yeah, I don't understand. Apparently, it doesn't appear that he was kind of reprimanded for that I could find. But what's interesting is the day that Lincoln is shot is the day that he signed the legislation to officially create the U.S. Secret Service.
Oh, that's interesting.
Although, when he signed that legislation, the Secret Service had absolutely nothing to do with protecting presidents.
Okay.
The Secret Service was formed in 1865 as part of the Department of the Treasury, as Simon Donovan notes in this episode. And it was responsible for protecting the assets of the National Treasury, safeguarding the production of the US dollar and the facilities where that happens, and to stamp out counterfeiting in order to stabilize the US economy. Because by the end of the Civil War, nearly a third of all the currency in circulation in the United States was counterfeit.
That's so funny. Like, what a time to just be like, I guess I'll just make some fake money because everyone's doing that.
We talk about like the world being stressful now, and it is deeply, but I maintain that the Civil War would have been an even more stressful time to live through.
Oh, yeah.
The Secret Service's responsibilities were then broadened to include like investigating frauds perpetrated against the government, which is how they ended up investigating a new organization called the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, right.
As well as non-conforming distillers, smugglers, mail robbers, and land frauds. We then have another presidential assassination in 1881 when President James Garfield was assassinated. it was only in 1894, so like 30 years after it was created, that the Secret Service started protecting presidents, but it was only part-time. And it started because they were looking into a group of gamblers with an assassination plot aimed at President Grover Cleveland. So it only kind of came into being because there was like a crossover between their treasury duties and the protection of the president.
That's interesting.
But Congress didn't really want to establish a national law enforcement agency because they wanted to leave the law enforcement agencies up to the states.
Right.
And so that's why it wasn't really yet like an official function. But then in 1901, we have a third presidential assassination in like 36 years.
Yeah, which feels like when you put it like that, when you say within 36 years, like that's mental.
It's not very good going.
No.
President McKinley was assassinated. And that is when Congress requested that the Secret Service protect the new president, Theodore Roosevelt, full time.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Carrie Fetterman, associate professor in the Department of Justice Studies at Montclair State University, who literally wrote the book on McKinley's assassination, writes, McKinley's assassination came at a critical time in U.S. history. Up until then, there was a general hostility towards centralized power, and remaking the Secret Service as a national police force would, in effect, be taking some law enforcement power away from the states. However, after McKinley was killed, the incident became a factor in establishing the role of the Secret Service in protecting the president. There was a recognition of the president as a target. So over then the ensuing years, the role of the Secret Service in protecting the president kind of became formalized. And President Roosevelt was always guarded by at least 2 Secret Service men. He did not enjoy this. He liked to kind of be free and active, and he found this annoying. And he would often kind of sneak away from the Secret Service in order to go hiking or on a horseback ride. William Howard Taft also escaped the Secret Service briefly on Christmas Eve in the afternoon in 1911 so that he and the First Lady could secretly visit some friends in the midst of a rainstorm. They came back and everyone was obviously extremely stressed because they didn't know where the president was. And they kind of mischievously arrived home to the White House, very pleased with themselves. As time went on and there were other assassination attempts into like a president-elect before he actually became president.
Yeah.
They then started guarding the president-elect as well. But also, you know, obviously these relationships started building between the Secret Service agents guarding the president and the protectee, as they're known. Because, you know, as we've discussed, when Woodrow Wilson was courting the woman who would become Edith Wilson, Edith Galt, when he walked her home, he would walk back to the White House with his Secret Service. And Edmund W. Starling, who was the Secret Service agent attached to him at the time, is quoted as saying, "We walked briskly and the president danced off the curbs and up them as we crossed the streets."
That's very cute.
Yeah, because he was so in love. He also, the same Agent Starling, was also a favorite of President Calvin Coolidge, who often tried to kind of get away from him in a kind of similarly mischievous manner. Starling recalls, sometimes he would try to sneak out the east or west entrance just to fool me. One day I turned the tables on him and hid in the police box on the east side. He came out of the engine room up the east steps and passed right by me. I fell into position behind him. When he reached the gate, he turned around with a look of glee on his face. "Good morning, Mr. President," I said. He turned and headed for F Street without saying a word.
That's so good.
And then in 1917 is when we get to the point where Congress authorized to not only protect the president, but protect the president's immediate family.
Yes.
And then when we get into World War II is when the Secret Service really transforms the White House, because that's when casual visitors were banned from the White House. There couldn't be just like congressional constituents being escorted like across the White House lawn. As Lorena Hickok remembers, famous friend of
Yes,
Eleanor Roosevelt, No more throngs of congressional constituents being escorted along the beautiful stately grand corridor from the East Room to the state dining room. No more government clerks hurrying through the grounds in the late afternoon on their way home from work. No more Sunday tourists feeding the squirrels, taking snapshots and hanging around the portico, hoping someone interesting would come out. So I think like the White House was a much more kind of public building.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. People could just walk up and kind of sit on the grounds, I guess. But yeah, it's after Pearl Harbor, really, that all changes, which does make sense. But it isn't really until like the 1950s that the Secret Service is kind of like formalized. In 1953, the first Special Agent training school is set up with a 3-week course that covered like investigative skills, but also protective responsibilities for agents. And it wasn't until 1962 that the coverage is expanded to include the vice president. The vice president previously could request protection, but now suddenly the vice president is getting protection automatically. And that's basically because, there just is more and more threats against these people's lives as time goes on.
I had no idea that it was set up like, it's like quite recent history.
Now, there is obviously a difference in the resources that are available to the Secret Service who are protecting anyone other than the president himself. Like the Secret Service protecting the president can request military assistance in terms of like planes and cars and all that kind of thing. If you're kind of anyone else, you will not have those same resources. But of course, it all changes again in 1963 when JFK is assassinated.
Yes.
That is when the number of agents assigned to the presidential detail is really intensified, and they became more proactive about like advances and proactively gathering intelligence to prepare for a president to be in a particular place.
Yeah.
I mean, there was also a story that basically, because JFK was shot twice, and it was the second bullet that really killed him. He would have been in critical condition anyway with the first one, but they do say that there has always been a big party culture in the Secret Service. It's a big culture of burnout, but also a big party culture. And apparently his whole Secret Service detail the day he was assassinated was like deeply hungover and had very few hours sleep. They'd all been out partying the night before.
How interesting.
And so like you can see, he's obviously in an open-topped car, and you can see that the Secret Service agent who's driving doesn't speed up after the first shot. He actually brakes.
Okay, yeah.
And it's after JFK is shot that former presidents now get Secret Service protection for their lifetime. And also a widow of a president can get Secret Service protection, and any children under 16. As long as she doesn't remarry. If she remarries, no more protection for her.
She's on her own.
Because her big, scary husband will protect her instead. But yes, and of course, I think the nation was like, we have to protect Jackie Kennedy at all costs after what she's been through. But that is something that stands in place today for the spouses of presidents. Although, of course, the language at that time was wife. And it's not until, I find this fascinating, it's not until 1998 that the remit of the Secret Service is expanded to include national special security events.
Right.
So things like political party conventions, presidential inaugurations, summits with world leaders, like meetings with, like the United Nations General Assembly. It's only in 1998 that they kind of take an event-based focus in addition to protecting the individuals.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. And it's only in 1999 that the United States Secret Service Memorial Headquarters building in Washington is dedicated. Before that, the agency just had offices around different buildings in DC.
Very I'm absolutely like, my mind is blown at how this is like in the last 25 years.
Also, when we get to September 11th, the Secret Service field office in New York was in the World Trade Center.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So obviously, people who worked for the Secret Service were killed on 9/11, but also in terms of the infrastructure around the Secret Service in New York, it was obviously decimated because their office was destroyed. And it's only in 2002, so the same year that this episode came out, that in response to 9/11, the Secret Service is moved from the Department of the Treasury to the new Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, that was in 2002?
Mm-hmm.
Because I found that interesting in the episode when it was like, oh, the Treasury handles this. And I was like, isn't it Homeland Security?
Yeah.
But it didn't even exist then.
It was created in response to 9/11. And of course, you know, in 2007, with Barack Obama being a candidate, he was the earliest presidential candidate to ever get Secret Service protection because the level of threats to his life were so intense as the future first Black president. And obviously Hillary Clinton already had Secret Service protection as the spouse of a former president.
Yeah.
But so it really steps up again in 2007. But in 2008, in the first 5 years under the Department of Homeland Security, the Secret Service had made nearly 29,000 criminal arrests for counterfeiting, cyber investigations, and other kind of financial crimes, 98% of which had resulted in convictions, and seized more than $295 million in counterfeit currency.
Whoa.
And the actual loss from those crimes amounted to $3.7 billion and a prevented potential loss of more than $12 billion. So the Secret Service still has this like weird double focus between financial crimes and protecting the president.
Yeah, it's so interesting that it's like those are the two arms of it.
Yeah. But yeah, whereas in 1902, Theodore Roosevelt just had 2 agents assigned to protect him, the Secret Service is obviously now like a force of thousands. It's always been severely understaffed, and so burnout is very real within the Secret Service. But the Secret Service employs nearly 8,000 people for protective and investigative missions. And the number of people with Secret Service protection fluctuates. And obviously the complete list of everybody who has Secret Service protection isn't public information. But it grew to about 54 people had Secret Service protection after September 11th. During the first Donald Trump administration, 42 people had Secret Service protection. They had to do a lot more for Donald Trump than they'd done for previous presidents just because he has so many adult kids and grandkids.
Yeah.
That all of those people needed secret, because it's the president's immediate family.
Yeah. Get
Secret Service protection. It went down to 36 while Biden was in office. And apparently the Secret Service currently has protective details for 43 people. In both the case of President Biden and President Trump, the majority of people with Secret Service protection were members of their families because they're both granddads, both have relatively large families. But as we see in this episode, the president can assign Secret Service protection to anyone.
Right.
As long as the Secret Service has the capacity and the numbers to do it. They obviously have the power to do quite a bit in terms of like the Secret Service closed a park that was next to the home of J.D. Vance when he became Trump's running mate, because it was obviously wouldn't have been an area that they could otherwise control, which was a source of consternation from J.D. Vance's neighbors.
Yeah, I bet.
Nikki Haley famously requested Secret Service protection as a candidate and was denied it because in order to get Secret Service protection as a candidate, you have to meet a certain threshold in terms of your likelihood to actually become the nominee.
Right. That's pretty brutal.
Yeah. And of course, now we have a whole controversy of basically Donald Trump taking away people's Secret Service protection as an act of political retribution.
Yeah.
So he took away Anthony Fauci didn't have Secret Service protection, but he had money allocated towards him having his own security.
Yeah.
And that was taken away. People who had spoken out against Trump, who had worked for Trump in the first Trump administration have since spoken out against him. When he got back into office, he took away their Secret Service protection. And of course, he famously took away Secret Service protection for Biden's adult children. They should have had it, in theory, for 6 months after Biden left office, and he took it away early.
Yeah.
As well as Kamala Harris, of course. So it's now being used as a kind of political tool in a way that we've not seen previously.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of haphazard history, more so than one might expect.
Honestly, more twists and turns than I thought. I kind of thought it was this like really, really long running thing. It's quite interesting that it's like still growing and still shaping itself. Leigh, I really enjoyed that. And also just like to lean into the bodyguard of it all. Like I feel like now you've told me the history and kind of the changes that were happening around the millennium. It kind of makes sense that this is being brought in as a storyline, especially in the aftermath of the season 2 finale. And like, you know, like Gina being a much more of a presence in the last season, and just us kind of, you know, Ron not just popping in to be like, you got to do this thing, but it's another branch of government that is working constantly, or like government workers. And I just think it's really interesting that like up until now, we've not, aside from Gina, we've not really seen those people who are there all the time, who are the extras in the scene that are walking with the president everywhere. I feel like it's really nice for us to put a human character to that in the way that we had Gina last series. And I think I speak for us both when I say she's sorely missed.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what Special Agent Donovan has to offer us as the season comes to its conclusion.
Or should we say as the season heats up?
Ooh.
Well, Fi, I have got to go because I've got to get to the theatre.
Just gotta go to the theatre, darling.
I'm going to go to the theatre. But we are Queer Girls Watch, wherever you get your socials. We're queergirlswatch@gmail.com if you want to send us in a little email. I actually have some that I have to send to you, Fi, for you to read that are really nice.
Thank you.
And also, do just have a little look on our Patreon, rate and review. We really appreciate everyone who supports the podcast in any way they can.
We really do. Leigh, shall we do this again next week? Because I'm buzzed for the next episode. The title itself has got me in fits.
I'm jazzed.
Okay, I'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.